Hello there friends, today Nintendo held their indie world, their first indie world of the year. Is it the first of the year? The last one was in December. Yeah, that's about right. As if I do research before things. And they announced a bunch and, well, not announced all indie games, but revealed a bunch of indie games for Switch and updated a bunch of indie games for Switch. So I figured I'd do the thing I usually do when Nintendo does this kind of thing and run through the 5 things that piqued my interest most, because who cares about the rest of the world? Obviously the most important person is me. There was a lot of stuff in this, as usual. It's just like a tirade of 1-minute trailers for games. Stuff like The Good Life, which was described as a debt repayment RPG, which I'm pretty sure is Tom Nook's favourite game genre. Somewhere in Mara looked like a very pretty game. There's lots of games. There's a game called Bark, which I have nothing other to say about other than the fact that it's called Bark, and Bark, it's like B.arc, so it stands for Bio Interstellar Arc, but it's a game about dogs. It's a dog shmup. That's really all you need to know about Bark. But yeah, I'll go through the 5 ones that piqued my interest most and talk about those as they release sometime, most of which were this year, one of which was today. Number 5, Quantum League, which was this really interesting looking shooter. It's coming late 2020 to Switch. I'm pretty sure it's an open beta on Steam at the moment, or maybe it just exited, or was it closed beta? There's a beta, it's probably over. There's no way of knowing. But it looked like this really interesting shooter where you do a round, and obviously someone wins, someone loses, and then you do another round, but the ghosts of your previous round are there, and it's like a time travel competitive shooter, so that everything you did in the previous round has some kind of influence on the current round you're in. So like your old ghosts of time travel past will shoot things, so you can basically use your past self to set traps, which seems really cool. Like it seems like there's really cool layers of strategic things you could do with that game mechanic, and I'm excited to see like crazy things where people like deliberately die 4 times in a row, just set up an insane trap for the other team that gives them a last second victory. Or I wonder, like, will it be weighted so that if you deliberately die 4 times in a row, you'll just be so far behind that you cannot possibly win? I don't know, we'll see. It has to see how the game actually feels and plays out for that to actually work, but it seems like a really cool idea. The fact that your previous past dead selves still influence the future rounds is one of those like mind-blowing ideas that you're like, yeah, it looks vaguely like Overwatch, but then the more it showed, like, look maybe a little less like Overwatch, but still, Quantum League, coming out in late 2020. Number 4, a game that I'm pretty sure was revealed, if I remember right, I think it was not last year's Game Awards, but the year before. Hello Games, the creator of No Man's Sky, the controversial game that came good in the end. So I like that Hello Games is like a good feel-good story now these days, instead of like the horrible toxic one it was when No Man's Sky actually launched. Now it's like, oh yeah, Hello Games, they redeemed themselves and saved No Man's Sky, and everyone's happy with them these days. But they revealed the last Campfire for Switch, which seems predominantly like this story-driven dungeon puzzler, and it was a really good trailer. All you need is a pretty good trailer. But it's interesting to see a studio like Hello Games branch out into something new and something different, and something that's not just updating No Man's Sky until the end of time. It's coming out summer 2020. There's a lot of games that kind of look like this, and some of them are really good and some of them are like really generic. That the kind of indie 3D style is quite interesting to see develop, because you see a lot of games go for that kind of like minimalist 3D, and sometimes it's kind of awful and sometimes it's actually surprisingly pretty. So I trust Hello Games these days, until I'm given reason not to. That game is coming summer 2020. It looks an interesting game. This wasn't one of those blowaway indie, like it's like we have Cuphead and Cadence of Hyrule, which I think is like the bar for these indie directs. This one was more like, yeah, here's a bunch of games that you're like, oh, that catches my eye, as opposed to a bunch of games that are like, whoa, that's amazing. And honestly, I'm not going to say I prefer that kind of indie direct, because obviously the whoa, that's amazing indie direct is much better, but still, it's nice to have a bunch of things that you're like, oh yeah, I'll keep my eye on that. Number 3, released today, Exit the Gungeon, the sequel, I think, to Enter the Gungeon. It was originally an exclusive to Apple Arcade. It's now a console exclusive to Switch for a while, and it's out today. So you can go play it probably by the time this video goes up, I'd imagine. It wasn't there literally as I hit record, so take that for what you will. It looks like more Enter the Gungeon, which I wasn't very good at, but seemed like a very good game, but I'm not very good at, because I'm bad at games. But I'll download it tonight and play it, and then not be very good at it. And so the cycle will repeat itself until the end of time. But yeah, Exit the Gungeon released today on Switch. There was another shadow drop in like the montage, but there was the one big out today reveal that they had in this indie world. Number 2, I Am Dead. No, not me. Literally, I'm still alive, thankfully. Unless I upload this video and then immediately die, in which I will. I actually will be dead, but that's neither here nor there. It looked like this kind of like really cool, really like interesting puzzle game with the premises that you're a ghost. You've died, but you're still around, and you can like manipulate the environment and go in and out of houses and spy on people from like a first-person perspective, as I'm sure ghosts are wont to do. I don't know, I've never been a ghost, but I'm pretty sure ghosts are pretty used to spying on people from a first-person perspective. But it looks very nice. It seemed like it would be very story-driven and like, you know, set in a rural North Atlantic island, which, cool. That kind of setting is interesting. I like small town settings for puzzle and adventure games, because you just like look at all these weird cast of characters and you can map places out in your head and you can move around. It's out in 2020. I Am Dead. Good title for a game as well, because you have to clarify every time. And then number one, the thing I liked most, which is it's a game that's been floating around in the ecosystem for a while, but they announced it will be a timed exclusive for Nintendo Switch. Baldo, coming out in summer 2020. It looks so pretty. It basically looks like what I want every game to look like. It's a cel-shaded action RPG, so think like Breath of the Wild meets Ni no Kuni, and I think it's something like this. Obviously scaled down, it's not Breath of the Wild scale, and maybe not quite Ni no Kuni pretty, but still, it's darn close. And all you have to do is see like screenshots of it and you're like, yes, this game looks tremendous. Because it seems to very much have that Studio Ghibli influenced art style. And yeah, it's a kind of like more traditional 2D-ish Zelda game, or like the isometric 2.5 behind the shoulder, kind of above the shoulder. Think Link's Awakening on Switch. That kind of game, except more like 3D, a little more 3D, and so pretty. I'm very excited for Baldo. It's so nice. I want to stare at it for a very long time. So yeah, as I said, it was a middle-of-the-road indie world. Nothing special, but a bunch of games that are like, oh yeah. As I said, a bunch of games that you'll be like, I'll keep my eye on that, rather than a bunch of games that you'll be like, oh wow, I can't wait for all these games. Thank you so much for watching. On your left, my top 10 games of the decade. On your right, my most anticipated games of 2020, even though most of them have been delayed. So who knows when any of them will ever come out, except a lot of them still have release dates. Regardless, thanks for watching, and bye bye.